to Suits and Sneakers, a series featuring sage advice and candid conversations with seasoned leaders from diverse backgrounds and styles. I'm your host, Carrie Tuttle. With my guests, we deep dive into the areas of team engagement, motivation, and effective performance management. Get ready to be inspired and transform your approach to leadership. Please like, subscribe, or follow to be notified when episodes are released. Let's get started. My guest today is Regan Herbst, co-founder of Advantis 360, a company that takes a human-first approach to cybersecurity. They say, kiss sleepless nights goodbye when you protect your organization and data. With over 25 years of experience helping organizations maximize security and networking technology use, Regan is the go-to person for business leadership, marketing, vision, and strategy. Helping clients protect critical digital assets and fostering strategic objectives is what Regan is passionate about. Fun fact, Regan is interested in high-end car racing and drumming, his favorite rock and heavy metal songs. So Regan, welcome to Suits and Sneakers.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. First, I want to ask, because we're called Suits and Sneakers, what do you like to wear to work?
Well, I want to ask you the question, why is it called Suits and Sneakers?
Yeah, great question. Because in my vision for the podcast, it really was meant to be a virtual mentorship platform. And I think that we get great advice and experience from people who wear, it doesn't even have to be suits and sneakers. It could be hard hats. It could be like, overalls. Like, I don't know. But the point is, it's not always the corporate perspective.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Well, we're in a work. Professional is important. I think I'm expressing a little more of my personal style these days because I live in the country and have horses, so I wear more Western. So this is a Stetson shirt.
Very nice.
And I think looking professional and presenting well is important to us. So, usually it's a suit jacket and the like. Casual Fridays are all fine. We are in cybersecurity, so you look over on the technical side of the team and pretty much anything goes there.
Yeah, they like to be comfortable sometimes, right? When they're deep into coding. Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go. So how do you describe what Advantis 360 does?
Well, we're really about solving problems today and moving forward in the cybersecurity domain. It's a very fast flux environment. And so, what we're delivering to our clients is really around, well, do we understand the potential risks today and tomorrow? And it's really guiding them through options on how to address not only the raw technical risks, but also the human risks, because we're dealing with human risk management more today than ever before with the advent of AI. So, it's overused, but we solve problems. But what we don't like to do is just solve the problem here and now. It's like, let's work on solving the problem as far forward as possible for our clients.
Yeah, I know you take a very strategic approach and really helping clients accomplish long-range goals.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's great. How did you come to form Advantis 360?
Oh my. Well, so in about 2014, I was running a small consulting company and we were working on some pretty significant critical infrastructure projects and seeing a lot of money being spent by my clients. And really, I was underimpressed at too much more technology, shiny object spend versus purchase the technology and then have a plan to actually get 60, 70, 80 cents on the dollar back on that technology. And so we started in 2015 with the objective of delivering high quality services to the market that would allow the customers to gain the value back in their cybersecurity investment. And that was the strong foundation of, it was almost a frustration that I had as I was looking at what was going on and saying that this could be so much better if we just went passionately into the market to foster, this can be done and here's how, and supporting customers that way. So answer your question.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm always curious about people's sort of origin story with their company and especially in the entrepreneurial space. What was it like? I'm always curious about that leap from we're like partners, and then we start hiring people. What was it like when you hired your first few employees?
It was ultimately scary. And some of the things that I going back in time. So prior to Advantage 360, I was running another company, IIS Plexus, and that was actually Advantis was the third kick at the cat. I had left a well-funded, solid engineering position with a global manufacturer, and ultimately speaking, that exodus was very scary. And so the first iteration was dip the toe in the water, work with other people who are hiring, but more as a consultant, and then moving into AIS Plexus, where I was actually primarily a contracting agency. And through that, I learned a lot about, what people are looking for. And then when we moved into Advantage 360, I think it was hiring the first couple of people actually came from my previous company. So onboarded them. They used to be contractors. I said, hey, you want to become an employee? And so it was more starting the Advantage 360 family with Stefan, co-founder, and Marcy, my wife. And it was really about, okay, how do we foster the family? Unfortunately, you want everything to be perfect long term. And some of those first hires, when you go about, well, are we really critiquing for fit, and are we hiring the right people, or are we just being too nice? And so it was pretty scary. We did pretty good though. And I have to say, right now, the majority of those individuals in that first couple of years are still with us. So
Family included?
family included, yeah, and not
Yeah.
divorced, and going down, still married, things of that nature, still talking.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a huge part of the success for sure.
Feels like 100 years ago there, though, Carrie.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were some mistakes you made with those first hires? Maybe one or two that didn't work out. More on that in a moment. If you're listening to this episode wishing you can get more out of your team alongside other purpose-driven leaders who want to be more effective, I encourage you to take a look at my program, Leading with Engagement. In it, I provide training and a practice field to gain confidence in communicating expectations that help team members stretch themselves and wow your customers. You'll gain a framework for giving meaningful feedback that motivates and inspires them to engage. Among other skills, you'll learn to delegate and track performance to free up your time to lead more strategically. Go to teammojo.ca for more information. Now, back to the episode. What were some mistakes you made with those first hires?
Clarity and role. So, really setting expectations, and having your org structure and the role really well defined, so that, since then I can say that we are complimented yet scrutinized to the depth that we go to in critiquing people.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, I think the biggest thing I learned is that you really need to understand that people are looking for clarity of expectation. So that role, the accountability side, and then, what happens if things don't go well, and what happens if things do go well. So career path. So didn't do that very well back in the day, but that's been a real learning and enlightening process for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a well, some people are naturally good at setting expectations, but a lot of people try to be somewhat easygoing and flexible by allowing people the freedom to do the job in the way that they want to as an individual. But if we haven't pre-talked about this is what I would be delighted to see and what would happen if things go wrong and what that means, what does that look like?
Yeah.
It's good that
Yeah.
you're having those discussions now.
Yeah, sure.
So, how do you approach managing and motivating performance?
Well, I think it goes back to the clarity around accountability, really, and looking. I just walk the walk, Carrie. Honestly, I'm still a seller in my company. Maybe I shouldn't be, but managing performance is really about quantification of metrics, and constant communication around what the North Star looks like, really. So, people are having a bad quarter, or, through the whole idea of challenges with customers, because we are a human-led organization, customer satisfaction very high, revenue performance also very high, and sometimes the two don't both happen. And so, but simplifying it down into two criterion of, you have the accountability of creating the relationships in the market and then achieving your revenue goals. And if those aren't achieved, then there's an issue. And we start talking about behaviors. So pipeline, and I had this discussion this morning, and I asked the question just anecdotally. I said, so what's the best thing to do to ensure you mitigate peaks and valleys in performance? And basically it was on pipeline management. It was all on, going back to that, here's the feeder specific on performance. We have the standard performance reviews, both qualitative, quantitative. We have cookbook reviews weekly on behaviors. Attitudinally, one of the biggest challenges on performance is like, are you standing in your own way? And do you really want this job? It's like, do you want to be here? Let's ask that question, because some time will change people and
Mm-hmm.
be wanting something different. So getting to the reasoning why is often really important. So taking a mentorship, it's a little bit hard to dance between a mentorship and a direct operating manager in that, as a small company, but I think it's important to have those discussions. And I think performance is always positively influenced. Like when I'm talking to one of our individuals about, wanting to buy a house. Okay, great. It's a great goal. What you need to achieve that, and how do we help you get there, kind of thing. And so tying it to the personal goals really, really drives that performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I think about all the roles you've had, have you ever, I'm sure you have a story where you've taken somebody from sort of stagnant and underperforming and kind of turned them around to focus on that goal and take those steps forward. How did you do that?
Encouragement. I think a lot of the challenges that I've seen in people underperforming is really just, it's an exercise in self actualization.
Is there a specific person you have in mind as you're thinking about this that you can share a little bit of background? No names. We don't
Yeah.
have to name names.
Yeah. We all come, yes, particular individual coming from a particular space on, you have to really start. What garners success is how effectively you spend your time and how that time is applied to building your personal brand. And so one of the things I did is like, I just, this particular individual is having problems. And I said, how about we talk about brand equity, for Terry? We'll use Terry as the individual's
Okay.
name because it's gender neutral. Anyway, so Terry was undermotivated, wasn't sure, saw a big number, I think was really, I'm going to say nervous, and constantly was commenting like, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. And I said, okay, well, let's just step back and let's not look at the number. And so as we progressed, we started talking more about building brand equity and building the franchise of the individual, because that carries them, it's a personal benefit that carries, you may not be with us forever, but this is how you build your brand equity and carry it forward. And that started to resonate very much. And so because it became more personal to the individual, and they could say, yeah, I'm building for the future by operating under these quality principles and executing on these things. And also embracing agility. Like there's different ways to that end goal. And embracing, one of the things you were going to ask me a question about, advice to my younger self. The path to the end state doesn't have to be a straight line. It could be a meandering line. There's different ways to achieve goals. And so you provide options and say, this is not my way or the highway. How would you achieve that? And so by
Mm-hmm.
still operating inside of the framework of Advantage 360 effectively, and our sales and selling and organizational model.
Mm-hmm.
I might have danced around answering that, but it's really about, number one, do you want to be here? Number two, let's look at how we build you in alignment with Advantage 360. And we want the best for everybody, right? It's a win-win.
Well, and I think when you convey that, it's not just about accomplishing those corporate goals. It's I care about you as a human being as well.
Yeah.
That goes a long way to motivating people.
Yeah. And that in my younger years, that would have been really lost on me, like the success of the team model. I did not come from that space. And that's been a really great growth opportunity for me, is really looking at people need to be accountable, but I make mistakes on a daily basis. Let's go out and make mistakes together. And hopefully the end result is a positive. And so
Yeah.
developing others, that's a big area where I think, and giving them the opportunity to shine. And that's however they want to shine. Like some people are embarrassed about getting publicly acknowledged. Some people love it. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe your leadership style?
Hmm. Natural and operational might be two things. If I need to triage and take control in an emergency situation, it's very natural for me to bring everybody together, but really lay out the plan. And now I have much more operationally, not under duress. I very much embrace ideas and look for feedback. And actually, one of the individuals on our team, I'm going like, I'd really like to make progress in this area, but could you support me in carrying us forward? And actually having that individual take on some of that responsibility and acknowledging that effort, right? So I think embracing ideas from the team, being able to communicate effectively. So a communicating leader, that's another growth area for me, is being very overt in the communication of, as much as possible, the why. And as a leader, I think my growth opportunity is actually in going maybe further out on a time horizon and showing this is the end state, or here's more of that vision model. But
Hmm.
communicating, embracing ideas, looking at opportunities, delegating when you see somebody who has an awesome superpower, embrace it and really, you know, get the team rolling together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, and I would say also just knowing you as well as I do that your communication style is very clear and um yeah, that there's clarity in the directions that you give.
Almost too clear sometimes.
Is there such a thing really?
Well, some would call it blunt. Uh, yeah. If you can say a lot in a shorter amount of time, that matters to me. And that's why, that delineation between here's clarity and here's something that's very blunt. Clarity is without emotion. It's underpinned by the why, it's underpinned with context. And so there are circumstances where I might come across with some very direct statements that may be interpreted as blunt. I work with a lot of clients, and we work inside of certain aspects of our team, or they enjoy and appreciate clarity in concise, right manner.
Hmm. What do you do to create a sense of team?
Get in the trenches, like be there. Creating the sense of team is looking at group goals and going, hey, like we're having, and I'll just call it a great month. And this means everybody. And I use, we are that V8 engine. And sometimes there's two pistons in the firing mode, and sometimes there's a piston going to recharge. But together, we're generating 800 horsepower. And that's really an analogy that I like to use because I like cars so much. I like using that because we're in a domain of there's going to be good and bad happening in a differential across the team. But as a team, we're moving forward. Uh, our technical prowess, our ability to communicate more effectively out there, being in the trenches, embracing the problems and going, okay, we need to solve this problem, and looking for ideas. Yeah, scrumming together, things of that nature. It's we're very ad hoc as a team, right? We have common goals, And if you can operate on a premise of never lose sight of your accountability, no matter where you are, whether you work from home, whether you're in the office. So creating that team atmosphere, I'm a firm believer in physical presence. So recently, I didn't organize it, but we had this great Friday event, but it was a company social event with a competition, some friendly competition and some, we'll call it values building. And it's
Okay.
great, and that builds team because it's fun. And so, we have those quarterly. I can't take any credit for it because I don't organize it. I don't think of the ideas, but we say it's important and it happens. And I
Hmm.
love to participate. You basically see the other side of the people. Like we know the families of every one of our employees, and so it's a little more personal.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Looking back, what is maybe a mistake you've made in your leadership journey?
Oh, not listening is uh well, let's just say, egos can be of a certain profile, and sometimes um that expertise, so that superpower that might exist in your team or an approach. So I'll use like disc profiling, like, the purple green, who are you as an individual and how receptive are you to that? Like mistakes I've made in the past were really about not listening, so, and it was kind of oil and water because when I was out with my client base, I've always been client facing. And you go, are you listening? And what is being said, are you interpreting it effectively? And so I think I've grown a lot in that manner in getting the context. So here's what I've heard you say, and then really kind of internalizing that and going, okay, so listening more. Even recently I asked somebody, I'm not going to give the complete answer. I said, if there was one role that could be added to the organization that would have the greatest impact on us in an aggregate, what would it be? And I loved the responses I got back.
What a great question.
And so, we have our target org chart. Here's where we're building to. And it was interesting how aligned what we had already planned out as a company was to the feedback that I received, which was awesome. So that
That is
listening,
awesome.
like, yeah, great. And then you could dig into other questions. So listening is super key. The other mistake that I used to make in the past, if I could put two down, was prioritization. Because I'm a very curious individual, very technically, historically, I was very technical, and I'd go down a rabbit hole and I'd be lost in what would be considered less than priority elements. And there was no urgency in that. And there was a lot of things burning everywhere else. So those are the two things that I probably have made mistakes on.
Okay. What helps you do a better job of prioritizing now?
Well, I use the Eisenhower matrix. you know, it's just a nice simplistic model. It's pasted to my monitor, and I look at that and I'm going, okay, so
So, for those who aren't familiar, how does that work?
it's really about, so if there's a task or some type of outcome you're looking at, you can either own it, execute, own it, plan it, own it, delegate it, or it's not important and bucket, like throw it in the garbage, basically.
Yeah.
And so by going through that, through everything and so implications like recently we're dealing with tariffs and, US taxation issues, uh, super high priority, right? Uh, so boring, such a grind, but super high priority. So that was like embrace, plan, execute now, right? Because it has such a big impact on the business. So, and going through that, and delegation is a big part. Had a discussion with one of our guys this morning who was, mapping some minutia of detail in a particular solution for a customer. And I'm going, and we have various relationships in the industry. And I said, that's not in your job description. Do you enjoy that? He goes, no, it's awful. It's painful. I'm like, David over there, he'll actually do that for you. And it's part of something he likes to do. I said, yeah. And so,
Perfect.
learning those things so I think everybody should follow that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think we've all fallen into that trap, right? Like, even as leaders, thinking that we have to do everything and not delegating enough, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
100%.
giving our team the opportunity to shine too.
Well, with those superpowers, like I was mentioning, I'm like, you're going to do a better job than I on this, honestly.
What makes you most proud in your leadership journey?
The realization that we got here as a team, you know, I think that's probably the best thing I can take away from when I was a little kid. I said, someday I want to run my own business, and you know, I should have said someday I want to be a part of running a business because I think it's been just realizing success through the team concept has been wonderfully rewarding, almost humbling to a point.
So say that again. You said, I want to run a business
Yeah,
versus I want.
back in the day, I said I want to run my own business, like being in control, and now
Okay.
it's like I want to be a part of running a business.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me I think is super awesome. Like how we're structured as a company is very flat, and we don't, there's no hierarchy in our company, and so I think that's been a path to success, whether it's loose partnerships in the market or defined responsibilities inside of our company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm very proud of our team and what they've accomplished. I'm very proud of people who have come from spot X and are now in spot Y, um, because as time progresses and the next phase of my life is not too far in front of me, I really think walking away or having a next phase of life at some point, that would be cool. The credibility, I'm very proud of our credibility in the market too. That and that's a group thing. It's not just me as a leader, but fostering that.
So, based on the thing you're proud of, does that change or add to any of the advice that you would give to your younger self when you first started in leading teams?
Very much so. Like success of others, developing others, those are like the team growth, both personally and professionally, is pretty cool. Yeah, and it just goes back to my former self being maybe more ego driven and wanting to be the center of attention if I can be vulnerable, which is
Thank you.
not the case anymore. And I tell everybody I work with, I go, find a mentor. Like that's probably the one thing. That's another thing, in terms of going down that, what would I do differently path would be get a mentor that you can trust. It might, I saw my daughter as an example. Here's a little story. And she wants to be a psychologist. And so she has her undergrad degree and she was the top graduate in her undergrad degree program.
Wow.
And she was reluctant. And so now she wants to go for her master's and potentially doctorate. And I said to her, I said, so who could give you guidance on how to get there? Well, I don't know. And I mentioned the gentleman, like the dean of her college. I said, you should call him. Well, he won't want to talk to me about this and blah, blah, blah. And he was very proud of you as a graduate. Like I saw it. And she did. And then he basically gave her paths to get to becoming a psychologist, doctorate or undergrad degree with a thesis. Like there's different paths. And he was able to shine some light on options. And so having that mentorship, which is what that was, I think every young person should have that. And I think there's maybe not enough of it.
Yeah. Did you have a mentor?
No, that's why I messed up so much.
Well, who's a leader whom you admire?
um, So I admire humble leaders. So there was a few individuals. The former CEO of Palo Alto Networks was a he was a true leader that believed in his company, the people, the product.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Mark. So looking up to the humble leaders, looking up to those who execute at a high level, but yet hold a very humble and the sense of normalcy of just being there and being a true person and not
Mm-hmm.
really buying into all the hype. So those are generally the leaders that I embrace, and really stepping in. Without getting into politics, Zelensky. I consider him a leader because, you know, he'd probably die for his country in a heartbeat. So you just kind of go, yeah, that's genuine. So that those genuine leaders, you can sense them, right? As opposed to polarized, unidimensional leaders that might be more self-centered. So yeah.
What sources do you look to for advice or new ideas?
Oh, my market community. I'll go to. So ideas come from everywhere, including uh, if I can mention Sandler and Hamish and you, and I'll go to folks in the cybersecurity space and like leadership positions.
Hmm.
And so I make it to some really interesting group sessions down in the US or had historically, and really amongst peers talking about what's moving in the market, how they address problems. It's really about talking to them about that and then taking the ideas and maybe throwing it against the wall in a proof of value or some type of, call it low risk, small motion, try it out, be curious.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So really, yeah, it's the marketplace
It
in that
really is.
case.
The market really, and that's listening to the executives in the market going, this is, how is your decision making criterion changing? What problems are you solving? Top line for your organization, all of those things. You go, okay, well, why are we here? Well, you know, for you to sleep at night, we need to be really in tune with those elements in the market. So, talking and gathering information from clients, from peers, from industry experts. Sometimes I listen to, folks like Gartner and Forrester and other industry organizations, but I treat those with a grain of salt a little bit. They have influence in the market though. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. So what's on the horizon for you for 2025 and beyond?
building the org out. So really kind of solidifying the roles and putting Advantis in a position of, all of those cylinders in that V engine running independently. And so, you could actually lose a cylinder and still uh, operate, so really building out the org and looking at how self-sustainability is another one. We're a smaller organization, so we're always working on how do we ensure that we give the people the opportunity to succeed and really see Advantage 360 hit stride on taking advantage and fostering that consultancy in the marketplace. It's where I came from, Carrie. Like I came from a pure consultancy domain and where it was like, look for ideas. How do you take pieces that are available to you and splice them together to garner success for the clients? We're all about, the clients, and we're super stoked when we have huge NPS scores from our clients and they're happy, right?
Yeah.
That's really fostering that and building it out systematically. One of my biggest fears, if I may, is I've seen organizations turn corners on, they grow and then they lose themselves in that growth.
Mm,
So, our mission and vision and our principles of fostering true outcomes for our clients is very core to us. So if we can do that in a bit more of a scale model, that would be great for 2025. So build our team.
hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great mission. And I know you have a lot to celebrate. You guys are good at celebrating as well.
Yeah. Celebrating is great. I think we celebrate everybody, years of service at Advantage 360, celebrating wins, overachievement, giving people an opportunity. They need to know that they're appreciated. Yeah. What area? I have a question for you, Carrie.
Yeah, sure.
Celebration to us is like really we go out and we have have fun. We do charity.
Hmm.
Community is big for us. I think some of the and I'm going to go down this path a little bit. Celebrating the potential of the young people out there who aren't being given the opportunity, and that's one thing that Stefan on our team as a co-founder of the company has truly embraced, and I've really invest more time in celebrating the potential of young people. Like we're trying to connect all of these really, really talented young cyber security individuals with employment inside of our customer base, doing referrals. I'm at this young lad who's super awesome at what they do. They might be a fit, and then I'll make connections, and that's celebrating that and fostering opportunity for the young people out there. I know it's tough. Like I can't imagine just, you know, I've been in the industry a long time, and it was really persistency got me started and in the door. But I don't know if that's still the case these days. So we like to celebrate, even outside of our organization, building that community. And so we're actually participating in May in a community building event, like locally for cybersecurity, very student driven, things of that.
Okay.
So did I answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
celebrate.
It's nice to highlight that because not all employers or organizations are good at the celebration piece. They'll be like, "Hey, yeah, we had a great year once a year." But that's a long time for staff to wait to be recognized and to have that feeling of celebration, and it really does bring the team together. So, but I know that you guys do it a lot, so it's good to talk about it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
So, what final words of advice would you have for our listeners, who some of which may be millennials, maybe Gen X, who are in a state of transition? What advice would you give them in today's leadership environment?
If I can say, I'm going to be a little old school and going into the new. I would say focus on focus on alignment with the passions that you have and the roles that you go into, even if it might not be 100% match. What you need is experience. So if I could talk to the young people coming up, it's like meet more people, you know, meet more people, engage in those relationships, because opportunities abound, ideas get exchanged, personal growth happens from those. And I would say foster those networking opportunities. When you do find your passion, it's the first, for me anyway, it's the first 5 to 7 years of effort where you need to pay the price. And that price is effort. It's building you, it's building the company you're working for. Put that effort in. And if you can define a goal, even better. Some of us didn't have clear goals back then, but if you can define that goal, but invest in that first 5 to 7 years, because it sets you up for everything else. How you operate, what you know, because there's always new things to learn. School is life, and life is nothing but a learning opportunity. So embrace that first 7 years as set yourself up, be smart about it, and put the effort in. And then you set yourself up for success.
Wow. That's some great advice. I think we've covered a lot of ground. So I really appreciate everything that you shared, Regan. I can't thank you enough, because the stories that you share, I think, reflect those of lots of leaders, and the things that, I say this all the time. We don't talk about this in business school. This is the stuff that you learn on the street in the school of hard
Yeah.
knocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, very
Yeah.
true. No, it's been wonderful chatting. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So thank you so much.
Oh,
We're glad you joined us for Suits and Sneakers. If you want to be an expert guest, look for the link in the show notes. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to be notified of future episodes.